Ladies and gentlemen, trust is the foundation of any relationship. It's the glue that holds two people together, allowing love to flourish. But what happens when that trust begins to crack? When you start feeling like something isn't quite right? When the person you once felt safe with starts to feel like a stranger? Today we're going to talk about one of the most painful experiences in a relationship: infidelity. More specifically, how to recognize the signs that he might be cheating on you. Before we dive in, let me be clear: accusations without proof can be damaging. The goal here is not to create unnecessary paranoia, but to help you recognize patterns that could indicate a problem. If you notice multiple signs, it's important to address your concerns with honesty and clarity. Here are 10 key signs that he might be cheating on you. A sudden change in behavior can be one of the biggest red flags in a relationship. If he starts acting differently, without any clear reason, it could be a sign that something is going on. He might become more distant, withdrawing emotionally, and showing less interest in spending time with you. Conversations that once felt effortless may now feel forced, and he may seem distracted or uninterested when you talk. On the other hand, some men overcompensate for their guilt by being unusually affectionate, showering you with gifts or attention in ways that feel out of character. This could be an attempt to ease their own conscience or to keep you from suspecting anything. Irritability is another warning sign. If he gets defensive over small things or picks unnecessary fights, it might be his way of deflecting attention from his own actions. While changes in behavior can sometimes be caused by stress, work, or personal issues, if his shift is drastic and unexplained, it may be worth looking deeper into what is causing it. Increased secrecy is one of the most telling signs that something may be wrong in a relationship. If he suddenly starts guarding his phone as if it holds classified information, it could be a sign that he has something to hide. He may change his phone's password without telling you, become overly protective of his devices, or keep his screen face down when he's around you. If he used to leave his phone lying around, but now takes it with him everywhere, even to the bathroom, this sudden change in behavior could be cause for concern. Another red flag is when he steps out of the room to take calls or lowers his voice when talking on the phone. If he was once open about his messages and notifications, but now becomes defensive when you ask simple questions, it might indicate that he is communicating with someone in a way he doesn't want you to see. While privacy is important in any relationship, a drastic shift towards secrecy, without explanation, could mean there is something he doesn't want you to find out. A noticeable decline in intimacy can be a strong indication that something is off in a relationship. If he was once affectionate, initiating hugs, kisses, or other forms of physical closeness, but now avoids them, it could mean he is emotionally or physically invested elsewhere. He may seem uninterested in holding hands, cuddling, or even making eye contact the way he used to. Conversations that once felt deep and meaningful might now feel shallow or forced, as if he is emotionally checked out. In some cases, he may make excuses to avoid physical intimacy, claiming he is tired, stressed, or just not in the mood. While occasional disinterest is normal, a consistent pattern of avoidance can be a red flag. If he no longer compliments you, flirts with you, or engages in the small gestures that once made you feel loved, it might mean his emotional or physical needs are being met by someone else. While there can be other reasons for a decrease in affection, such as stress or personal struggles, if the change is sudden and unexplained, it's important to address it openly and honestly. A sudden and unexplained change in appearance can sometimes be a sign that he is trying to impress someone new. If he was never particularly concerned about his clothing, grooming, or fitness habits, but suddenly starts dressing better, wearing cologne more often, or spending extra time in front of the mirror, it might be worth paying attention to. While self-improvement is not inherently suspicious, a drastic shift in how much he cares about his looks, especially if it doesn't seem to be for you, can be a red flag. He may start hitting the gym more frequently, buying new clothes, or changing his hairstyle without discussing why. If you compliment his new appearance and he seems indifferent or brushes it off, it could mean that his motivation is coming from someone else. Another potential sign is if he becomes defensive when you ask about these changes, acting as if you are overreacting or being intrusive. While it's important not to jump to conclusions, sudden and unexplained efforts to improve his looks, combined with other suspicious behaviors, might indicate that he is seeking validation and attention outside of your relationship. Unexplained absences and late nights can be a major warning sign in a relationship, especially if they become a pattern. If he suddenly starts working late more often, going on unexpected business trips, or having frequent boys' nights out without prior notice, it could mean he is making time for someone else. While work commitments and social outings are normal, it becomes concerning when his explanations don't quite add up, or when he becomes vague about his whereabouts. If you ask where he has been, and his answers are inconsistent or overly defensive, it may indicate that he is hiding something. Another red flag is when he starts making excuses for why he can't spend time with you, especially when this behavior wasn't an issue before. If he was once predictable in his routine, but now frequently disappears for hours without a clear explanation, it might be time to question what's really going on. You may also notice that he becomes irritated when you ask about his plans or changes the subject quickly, trying to avoid further discussion. While occasional last-minute plans happen, a sudden and repeated pattern of being unavailable, especially without reasonable justification, should not be ignored. A gut feeling is often one of the most powerful indicators that something is wrong in a relationship. While it's easy to dismiss intuition as paranoia or overthinking, our instincts are usually rooted in subtle changes we subconsciously pick up on. If you suddenly feel uneasy around him, notice a shift in the way he interacts with you, or sense that something just isn't right, it's important to trust yourself. Your mind may not have all the evidence yet, but your heart can often recognize when something feels off. This feeling may come from small unexplainable details, perhaps the way he avoids eye contact, the sudden increase in his secrecy, or the change in how he talks to you. Maybe his words say one thing, but his actions suggest something else. Over time, these inconsistencies can create a lingering sense of doubt that you just can't shake. Instead of ignoring your intuition, take a step back and observe his behavior more closely. While it's essential to avoid jumping to conclusions without proof, dismissing your feelings entirely can lead you to overlook red flags. Trust yourself enough to investigate further, communicate your concerns, and seek clarity. More often than not, your gut is trying to tell you something important. Emotional disconnection can be one of the earliest and most painful signs that something is wrong in a relationship. When a man starts to pull away emotionally, it often feels like you're living with a stranger rather than a partner. He may no longer engage in meaningful conversations the way he used to, offering only short, vague responses instead of sharing his thoughts, feelings, and daily experiences. Discussions that once felt natural and enjoyable might now feel forced or distant, as if he is no longer invested in connecting with you. Another sign of emotional disconnection is defensiveness. If he becomes irritated or dismissive when you ask simple questions about his day, his feelings, or your relationship, it could indicate that he is mentally or emotionally elsewhere. He may also show little interest in your life, no longer asking about your day, your thoughts, or your emotions. When someone cares deeply, they naturally want to know how their partner is feeling and what's going on in their world. If that interest fades, it can signal that his attention is focused elsewhere. Emotional distance is often a precursor to physical cheating because it suggests that he has begun to detach himself from the relationship. He may be withholding affection, avoiding serious conversations, or seeming indifferent to issues that once mattered. While stress, personal struggles, or other external factors can also contribute to emotional withdrawal, a consistent and unexplained pattern of disconnection should not be ignored. If you feel like you're the only one trying to maintain the emotional bond, it's time to address the issue directly and find out what's really going on. Financial red flags can often be one of the most revealing signs of infidelity. When someone is hiding something, their spending habits may start to change in ways that don't quite make sense. If you notice unexplained expenses on credit card statements, cash withdrawals that don't have a clear purpose, or sudden increases in spending that don't benefit your relationship, it could be a cause for concern. Financial secrecy often accompanies cheating because affairs require resources, whether it's for gifts, dinners, hotel stays, or even subscriptions to dating apps. Another major warning sign is hidden transactions. If he suddenly becomes secretive about money, avoids discussing finances, or even removes your access to shared accounts, it could indicate that he doesn't want you to see where his money is going. He might start paying in cash more often to avoid leaving a digital trail, or insist on handling his expenses alone when he never had an issue with transparency before. In some cases, you may notice receipts for purchases that don't seem to be for you: perfume, jewelry, clothing, or even travel-related expenses that don't match any trips you've planned together. While changes in financial behavior don't always point to infidelity, they do indicate a shift in priorities and possibly a breakdown in honesty. If he becomes defensive when you ask about certain charges or tries to downplay missing funds, it may be worth looking deeper. Money trails often reveal more than words, and if something doesn't add up, it's important to trust your instincts and seek clarity. Financial secrecy can be just as damaging to a relationship as emotional or physical betrayal, so open and honest communication about money is essential. Accusing you of cheating can sometimes be a classic case of projection, when someone transfers their own guilt onto another person to avoid accountability. If your partner suddenly starts accusing you of being unfaithful without any real reason, it could be a way of deflecting attention from his own actions. This behavior often stems from a guilty conscience. Deep down he knows what he's doing is wrong, but instead of admitting it, he turns the tables on you. By making you feel guilty or defensive, he shifts the focus away from his suspicious behavior and places it on you instead. One of the most frustrating aspects of this tactic is how emotionally draining it can be. You may find yourself constantly having to prove your loyalty or defend yourself against baseless accusations. He might suddenly become overly jealous, questioning who you're texting, where you're going, or why you're dressing a certain way, when he never seemed to care before. This could be his way of justifying his own actions, thinking, if I suspect her of cheating, she might not suspect me. In some cases, he may even use these accusations to manipulate you, making you feel guilty or insecure so that you don't notice his own wrongdoing. While occasional jealousy can be normal in relationships, a sudden and intense obsession with your faithfulness, especially if it coincides with other suspicious behavior, should not be ignored. If he is quick to blame you without evidence, becomes irrationally defensive when you ask about his own actions, or tries to make you feel guilty for things you haven't done, it may be time to take a step back and question his true intentions. In a healthy relationship, trust goes both ways, and no one should have to constantly prove their innocence while the other person hides their own secrets. Inconsistencies in stories are often a major red flag that someone is being dishonest. When a person is telling the truth, their recollection of events remains consistent, even when asked multiple times. However, when someone is hiding something, especially something as serious as cheating, their stories may start to change because they struggle to keep track of the lies they've told. If you notice that your partner's explanations don't add up, or that details of his whereabouts, conversations or activities keep shifting, it could mean he's trying to cover something up. One of the most common signs of deception is when he gets defensive over simple questions. If you casually ask, "How was your night?" or "Who were you with?" and he suddenly becomes irritated, avoids eye contact, or turns the question back on you, it might be because he feels pressured to maintain his cover. A truthful person typically has no problem answering basic questions, but someone who is lying might feel anxious and overcompensate by getting angry, dismissive, or even accusing you of being controlling. Another sign of inconsistency is when the details of his stories change over time. Maybe he first told you he was out with a coworker, but later he mentions that he was with a group of friends. Perhaps he said he got home at 10 p.m., but later, when asked again, he slips up and says he was out until midnight. These small discrepancies might seem insignificant at first, but when they keep happening, they can point to dishonesty. Pay attention to how he reacts when you call out these inconsistencies. If he becomes defensive, tries to gaslight you by saying you're imagining things, or scrambles to change the subject, it's a strong indication that he is hiding something. While memory lapses happen to everyone, frequent contradictions in his stories, especially when combined with other suspicious behavior, should not be ignored. Trust is built on honesty, and when someone's words don't match their actions, it's often a sign that the truth is being manipulated. At the end of the day, you deserve a relationship that makes you feel secure, valued, and respected. Love should be built on trust, not secrecy. It should bring you peace, not confusion. If you find yourself constantly questioning his actions, feeling anxious about his behavior, or doubting your own worth because of his inconsistencies, take a step back and listen to your intuition. You are not being paranoid for wanting honesty, and you are not being too sensitive for recognizing red flags. Your feelings are valid, and you have every right to expect transparency and commitment from someone who claims to love you. If you suspect betrayal, don't let fear hold you back from seeking the truth. You deserve to know where you stand, and if someone cannot give you honesty, then they don't deserve a place in your life. A healthy relationship does not leave you feeling uncertain or replace love with doubt. But remember this, if someone chooses to be unfaithful, it is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of their choices, their character, and their inability to appreciate what they had. You are strong enough to walk away from anything that no longer serves you, and you are more than capable of finding love that uplifts you rather than breaks you down. So trust yourself, believe in your worth. Never settle for less than the love, loyalty, and respect you deserve. Because the right person, the one who truly values you, will never leave you questioning their love.